Alright, so last September, my uncle and I decided to change the brakes on my grandma's car to save her some money in the shop. It went pretty well, except we made a couple mistakes. First of all, we stripped a couple of the lugs when we were trying to take off the wheels, and second of all, we bought the wrong parts initially. However, you can learn from my mistakes. Today, I'm going to teach you how to know if your brakes need changing, how to actually change your brakes, and then how to test out your new brakes. This is just sort of a rough guide. Before you change your brakes, you're going to want to look up the specific information for your exact make and model and know where all the main parts of your car are. So there are two main ways to know if your brakes need changing. The first way is to look at the brake pads through the spokes on your wheels. If they're less than a quarter-inch thick, then you probably need to change your brakes. The second way to know if your brakes need changing is if you hear a loud screeching noise when you're driving and you apply the brakes. If you hear this noise, then you need to change your brakes. So you have two main options for changing your brakes. The first way is just to take it to a mechanic. You'll pay for parts and labor, and they'll be out of there relatively quickly. The second way is to do it yourself. If you do it yourself, you'll pay for parts, but you'll save the cost of labor, which is usually around $200. So here's what you're going to need: a set of US ratchets, a set of US sockets, a breaker bar, a jack stands, a C-clamp, some WD-40, and finally your brake pads and rotors. Now, like I said earlier, we initially bought the wrong ones, so it's important that you look into your exact make and model to find out the exact ones that you need. So here's what you're going to do to actually change your brakes. On one wheel, you're going to loosen the lugs with a socket and breaker. Next, you're going to raise the car up on the jack and put the jack stands underneath just in case it falls so you're still protected. After this, you're going to take off the lugs and remove the wheel. After the wheel's removed, you're going to want to loosen the caliper by removing the two bolts that hold it in place. After this, you're going to want to remove the caliper carrier by taking out the two bolts that hold it in place. So at this point, you can remove the old brake pads. After this, you're going to want to remove the rotor, and this is going to be pretty hard, so you're probably going to have to hit it with a hammer a couple times before you're able to pull it off. After you pull it off, you're going to put the new rotor on, and as you put the new rotor on, you want to apply WD-40 to the bolts. And you do this because you don't want the bolts to the rust of the rotor, which would make it even harder to take it off the next time you want to change your brakes. So after this, you're going to assemble the carrier by replacing and tightening the bolts that hold it in place. Next, you're going to compress the caliper with your C-clamp. You want to do this until the piston is flush with the housing of the caliper. Next, you're going to install the brake pads. You want to put some grease on the outside of the brake pads and then install and tighten the bolts that hold it in place to the caliper. Next, you're going to want to put the wheel back on. When you're putting the wheel back on, you're going to want to apply some WD-40 to the bolts so that the lugs don't rust to the bolts. I mentioned earlier that we stripped the lugs, and the reason we stripped them is because the person who changed the brakes before didn't put any WD-40 on, so the lugs were real hard to get off. So now all you're going to do is repeat that for your other three wheels, and you should have new brakes on your car. So here's how to test out your new brakes. You want to pump your brake pedal 3 times in order to achieve pressure. After this, you're going to want to take it for a test drive. When you take it for a test drive, the ideal road would be a straight, long, not winding road that's unpopulated, but you got to work with what you got. While you're taking it for a drive, listen for any rattling or grinding like that. If you hear anything like that, that's a bad sign. Also, while you're driving, you want to accelerate to about 40 miles an hour and then apply the brakes down to 15 miles an hour and listen for bad sounds while you're doing that. If you hear any screeching, that is normal. That usually happens for the first few miles when you're driving with new brakes. So if it passes, congratulations, you changed your brakes. If it fails, you're going to want to retrace your steps, see what you did wrong, and worst case scenario, you're going to want to take it to a mechanic if you can't figure out what you did. So overall, I've hoped that you've learned a thing or two from my mistakes. You should know how to properly change your brakes, how to know if your brakes need change, and how to test out your new brakes once you've changed them. So if you follow these steps the next time your brakes need changing, you can save yourself a lot of money.